What's up guys, my name is Ty, and in this video I show you how to enhance your photos in a few easy steps using your phone's built-in settings. Phones nowadays are extremely powerful and take awesome photos. But have you ever snapped a photo of your kid or your pet or the sky and thought certain areas are too dark or too bright, or it could just be better? So when I'm editing a photo on my phone, there's a couple areas that I'll focus on first. Shadows, highlights, contrast, saturation, and warmth. Those 5 areas are pretty much the only things that you'll need to quickly enhance your photo. Even though there's just a handful of tools that I normally use, I'll show you what each one does in the Apple Photos app. But you should be able to follow along with some of the basic settings in your phone. All right, let's jump right in. So this is a photo I shot the other day just right off my porch. I thought the sky looked great and wanted to take a decent photo of it. So right off the bat, a couple notes. The trees are pretty dark. The sky is just a little bit bright and washed out. And I'm gonna bring in just a little more contrast and interest into the photo. And I'll show you exactly how I do that. So if you're using an iPhone, just go into Edit, and that'll bring up the suite of tools right at the bottom right there. So one of the first adjustments that I'd actually do is actually just tap Auto, just to see what the phone thinks the photo would need. So let's tap Auto. So you can see that it brightened up and enhanced the contrast and the saturation just a little bit, but you see the trees are still dark, and the overall photo I think could pop just a little bit more. So the exposure is the brightness of the photo. So if we go all the way to the extreme right or all the way to the extreme left, you see that it's gonna brighten or darken the image. So overall, I actually like the exposure of the image, so I'm gonna leave that right in the middle. Next is brilliance. Generally don't mess with it, but you can see that the auto adjustment already enhanced it by about 50%, 40%. So I'm just gonna leave that where it is, but I'll show you if we go all the way down, it just completely darkens the blacks and the shadows and washes out the highlights. And if we go to the other end, it brings up the shadows and brings down the highlights. So I'm just gonna leave it there. Next are the highlights. So these are the bright areas of your photo. So for this, I'm gonna bring down the highlights to bring back more detail in the sky. But first, if we go all the way to the right, it's gonna wash out and completely brighten up all of the highlights. So we're gonna go back down and we're gonna bring down the highlights to bring back some more detail in the sky. So you can see as we go down, it really brings back a lot of detail and kind of overcompensates for the saturation. So I'm actually gonna leave this around 70%. To me, that looks pretty good. So the next are the shadows. So like I was mentioning, the dark areas in the trees, we're gonna bring those up. So the automatic adjustment already brought up the shadows, but we're gonna bring them up just a little bit more. So you can see if we go all the way to the right and bring it up 100%, it really brightens up all of the dark areas, but kind of washes them out. So we're not gonna bring it up 100%. And if we go all the way down to the left, minus 100%, it completely darkens everything. So for this, I'm actually gonna bring up to around 65, 70%. I'm gonna bring it up around 70%. And every photo is different. So you just kind of play with the sliders, and kind of dial everything in for whatever photo you have. So next we have contrast, which enhances the highlights and the darks and shadows all in one go. So you can see that if we go all the way to the right, the darks get really dark and the sky gets kind of crunched. And if we go all the way to the left, it just washes everything out. I'm not really gonna play with it. I'm gonna leave it where the automatic adjustment adjusted it to. So brightness is exactly that. It's the brightness of the photo. So if we go all the way to the right, you can see it brightens everything up. And if we go all the way to the left, it completely makes everything dark. So for this, I'm actually gonna leave right in the middle because the brightness and the exposure to me already seem pretty good. So next is the black point. This is how dark the blacks are or how bright the blacks are. So if we go all the way to the right, it's gonna darken all of the black areas of the photo. And if we go all the way to the left, it's gonna completely brighten up all of the dark blacks in the photo. So this is actually what a lot of people use to get that faded, filmy look. I'm not that big of a fan of it, so I'm gonna leave this right in the middle. So next we have saturation, which is how much or how little color we have in the photo. So if we go all the way to the right, it's gonna completely enhance and over-exaggerate all of the available color in the photo. If we go all the way to the left, that completely zaps all of the color out of it and turns it black and white. So for this, I'm actually gonna enhance the saturation just a little bit because there's already a decent amount of color in it and I don't wanna overdo it to where it looks fake. So I'm gonna bring this up to around 35%. Next we have vibrance, which is the intensity of the color. So if we go all the way left, you can see that the intensity of the color completely deadens. So if we go all the way to the right with vibrance, you can see that the intensity of the color just completely magnifies. So I'm gonna leave the color vibrance right in the middle. So next we have warmth. So an oversimplified definition of color temperature is it goes from cool to warm, and there's everything in between. So if we go all the way to the left, you can see it introduces a lot of blue hues and makes the overall photo feel chilly and cold, hence cool color temperature. If we go all the way to the right, it introduces a lot of orange, yellows, and reds and makes the photo feel warm, hence warm color temperature. So for this, since it's a sunset, I am gonna bring up the warmth just a little bit to about 30%. So to me, that looks pretty good. Next we have tint, which is green and magenta scale. So if we go all the way to the left, it introduces a lot of green. And if we go all the way to the right, it introduces a lot of magenta. So for this color balance, I'm gonna leave it right in the middle. I'm not gonna mess with that. So next we have sharpness, which is pretty self-explanatory. You can enhance the sharpness to bring back some blurry areas of the photo. For this, I'm actually gonna enhance it just about 20%. So next we have definition, which is the detail of the photo. So if we bring that up 100%, it makes the photo just look super crunchy. For this, I'm not a fan of that because again, it's a soft sunset. You want it to look pretty nice. So I'm gonna leave the definition at 0. So next we have noise reduction. So noise reduction is great if you have a low light photo where there's a lot of noise or dark photo where there's a lot of noise. Since there was plenty of light in this, there's really not that much noise. So I'm gonna leave this at 0, but you can see if I bring it all the way up 100%, it smooths a lot of things out and you lose a lot of the detail. So for this, it's really not necessary. And last is vignette. So vignette will add just a little bit of a dark border in the corners, top, bottom, and sides of the photo to really draw your eye into the middle of the picture. So if we go all the way to the right, you can see that those corners really darken down. It really makes you focus right in the middle of the photo, draws you right in. And if we go to the opposite end, it brightens up the corners. So for this, I'm actually gonna bring up the vignette to about 20%. And that's it. So in a few easy steps, we brought up the shadows, brought down the highlights, enhanced the contrast, enhanced the saturation, brought up the warmth, sharpened the photo, and also added just a little bit of a vignette to bring your eye right into the middle of the photo. So here's the original compared to the edits. That's the original, that's with our edits. So in just those simple steps, you can enhance your photo with your phone's built-in settings without having to default to using an Instagram filter or something like that. But you can always mess with the different settings that are in your phone and see what looks best for your photo. So get out there, take some photos, make some manual adjustments, play around with it, post them to Instagram and tag me in them @TyPiercePhoto. I'd love to see what you guys come up with. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.